Thanks for watching, folks. Crypto Dave here with the beginner's helpful video for building your own computer or crypto mining rig. I am a beginner. I do not have a computer background. I'm no expert by any means. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 3 when it comes to intelligence on this. However, I do have some pieces of information that I ran into and issues that I had in building my rigs that I thought could be helpful for folks. So there's lots of videos out there. There's numerous ways to do this. I chose wood for my rigs. Other people might choose aluminum, or I've seen people do it with milk cartons. I mean, there's countless ways to do this, folks. So one thing I will say is don't be afraid of this. This was a lot of fun for me. I don't know anything, and I was successfully able to pull it off. My rigs are running without any issues. I have not touched them in 5 or 6 days now, and I tell you, I'm getting a little antsy, which is why I'm YouTubing now. So anyway, I've got 2 rigs that I have built thus far, and I also have a couple cards inside of my gaming machine. This has been over about a 5-week period of time. You can see that I went with a wood rig. This is a 36 by 18 board with 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch dowel rods. You can see the support structure I kind of built to hold up the cards. And I pretty much just drilled and screwed everything. I bought some brackets for the power supply so that those could attach to the board. Nothing's on here 100% steady, but nothing's going to move around either. Everything is supported nicely, and the wood made it real easy for me to do that and not worry about where I was. So anyway, I went with the wood. You do what you like. 36 by 18 was my base. It was a little too big. I probably could have went with like 30 by 16. Would have been enough for an 8 rig. And my 7 rig, I actually probably could have gone even smaller than that. But your list of stuff that you're going to need to get started, folks, is going to include your motherboard. Your motherboard, of course, is going to dictate how many GPUs you can really put on there, depending on how many PCI slots and M.2 slots and other supporting slots that you have. So choose wisely on the motherboard, do some research. You're also going to need a processor for that motherboard. I have went with Celeron processors on both of mine. They're cheap and they work just fine. I have 4 gigabytes of RAM on each of those machines. So you don't need to overdo that either. 4 gigabytes is enough to get you going. Your power supply. You're going to need a power supply for all this. I like the 1000 watts. It's got 6 plugs on the back. I do EVGA. I do the golds. And I have a 1000 watt and a 750 on that machine, and a 1000 watt and an 850 on this machine. I have plenty of electric. I actually probably could have done a little bit less on both of those. So, do what you like there. I don't know if I could get away with 1 power supply. I've looked at trying to do one with just a 1200 watt, which is just about probably what I'm running through this machine, somewhere between probably 1000 and 1100. But that might be cutting it a little close for some. So make your choice wisely. In addition to the power supply, of course, that'll come with all the cords and everything you need, for pretty much all the GPUs and all the accessories. In addition, you're going to need a hard drive, an SSD hard drive. I have 120 gigs. That is the only thing I did not screw down just because there wasn't a real convenient place to do it. So I just zip tied it, drilled a hole right through the board and zip tied it around, and it's fine. In addition, you can see I have an add to PSU there. That is so it daisy chains my second power supply. The first power supply tells it that it's on, and that's what tells the second power supply to turn on as well. So if you're going to have 2 power supplies, you're going to need one of those. In addition, you're going to need risers for your GPUs. And those come in packages of like 6, so make sure you get good ones. Make sure they have good reviews. I've read a lot of bad stuff about the crappy ones. I've actually had good luck with mine. They've all worked just fine. The only difference I've had is the difference in the power connector. Some had a 4-pin and some had just a 6-pin. So, just look at what you're getting. Make sure it's got good reviews. This board has 2 M.2 slots, which require adapter cards. So that's the white card there, you see, and that is, that enables me to have one more PCI slot there, along with, along with the second one, which is back in there. So that is, I think, pretty much it for the parts list. You had your motherboard, you had your processor, your RAM, your hard drive, your power supply, and your risers, and of course your GPU that you're going to use. Other than that, you just need your keyboard, mouse, and monitor to really get started. So you will need an operating system, of course. Both of mine are running Windows, Windows 10. So let's get on to a few of the problems that I had in making these. First of all, there were some issues going from 3 to 4 GPUs. You need to go into the BIOS of your motherboard and you need to make a couple of changes. You need to make sure that 4G encoding is enabled, or 4G decoding is enabled. The other change that I had to make was that I had to turn all of my PCI slots to Gen 1. So make sure that you make that change. I've read a lot about how Gen 2 and Gen 3 you'll start running out of resources because they're just using up more. So make sure those are Gen 1, and that should get you through the problem of getting your 4th GPU in. The next problem I ran into was going from 7 to 8 GPUs. I struggled on this board for some reason, just going from that 7th to the 8th. And what I ran into was basically Windows was only allowing 8 GPUs to be installed, and it was counting the motherboard GPU or motherboard graphics as one of them. So I had to go into the motherboard, or into the BIOS, and I had to change the primary graphics interface to one of the GPUs, and you just set it to the PCI slots. And basically once I did that, I restarted and I was able to where the onboard graphics were in my device manager before, they were gone and my 8th card was reading. So that was another problem I ran into, although I was just told today that supposedly Windows is now supporting up to 15 GPUs with their latest update. So that problem may have gone away even as recent as today. So that's the second problem I ran into. The third problem I ran into, which I can't believe I didn't find this anywhere when I was doing my research, was the settings for Wattman. AMD, when you install your AMD cards, it installs an interface, and Wattman is part of that interface. And that's where you can make your changes to the cards. However, what I found was that those changes didn't stay. I had to adjust the temperatures on some of mine. They were getting too hot. They were running at 88 degrees, and they were freezing up on me at least once a day. So I had made some changes. However, the next time I came down, the changes weren't there. And come to find out, every time that you restart or your computer goes to sleep and wakes up, those settings go back to default. So what I had to do to fix that was I downloaded MSI Afterburner, which I highly recommend. It's a great program. I should have done it to begin with. And within MSI Afterburner, it's also just an interface where you can make the changes on the cards. However, you can save that profile, and you can also add it to the startup. So, my logic tells me that Wattman is probably changing those settings back every time these things restart, which I do have them restart once a day. But then the Afterburner runs in the startup and puts the temperatures back where I need them. So that fixed my problem, but that was a major one for me. That took me about a week to figure out, why everything was freezing up, and then the Wattman was not working. So don't trust Wattman. Use Afterburner. Make sure that you save the profile and make sure that it's running at startup. One of the other problems I ran into was electrical. I have two 15-amp circuits in this basement, and I tripped them multiple times in this process. Each one of these boards are about 1 GPU away from tripping the breaker. So that was just me growing too fast, being too big for my britches here. So this past weekend we actually installed some new electric in the back. And I wanted to move the machines back here anyway. It's cooler back here, and it'll just be better. I have shelving unit to be able to put them on. But we installed four new outlets, all of which are on their own 20-amp circuit. So in theory, any one of those will run fine with one rig and possibly two. I'm going to end up putting them on this shelving rack. We still have to move all this stuff out of here. I'm going to pull that shelving rack away from the wall a little bit, and that is going to be my rig shelf. So I hope to be able to get 4 in there, over the next year. We'll see what kind of happens. But anyway, those are just some of the problems I ran into getting started. I'll close with, again, I had a lot of fun doing this, guys, and anybody can do it. I mean, it's just not that difficult. Watch the videos, plan it out accordingly. I drew everything out before I put it down. I made sure that I had ample space. I planned the best I could. But then when you do hit problems, don't be scared to make some changes and see if it fixes it. So have fun doing this, guys. Go out there and get your Bitcoin while you can. Let me know if this video, if there's any questions or comments on the video, or subscribe, I suppose. As I said, this is my first one, but if people start liking them, I'll certainly make more. I plan on building several more rigs, and I'll stay in this as long as it goes. So have fun out there, guys, and do this responsibly. Don't invest any money you're not willing to lose. That is very, very important. So anyway, let me know what you think. Talk to you later. Crypto Dave.